What could you do to protect your pets if you're sick or injured? My product, Save My Pet ID tag, helps you ensure that your beloved pets are safe and well cared for, even when life isn't what you expect.
Our guest today is a real survivor. Move over, Jeff Prost. He is also passionate about pet nutrition, and now he can call himself an author. He has a new book out. It's got a title that's going to grab you right away. Until the Last Dog, one man's lifelong journey to Alaska with his dogs. Strap yourselves in, folks. You're ready for a ride. Please welcome to our show, Rob Downing. Welcome, Rob.
Well, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be on your program.
Well, Mush I Say. I'm just curious before we dive in, do you actually have any tattoos that say mush on it?
No, and you know what? Dog mushers don't ever say that word.
Oh, educate us, the grand dog sledder.
The sled dogs are always ready to go. The hardest part about that is stopping them, not starting them.
Okay, so we're going to wind the tape back because you began in Ohio near Lake Erie, and that's very far from Alaska and dog sledding. But you always had, I understand, a passion for dogs. You had a dog named Boots.
Yes. That was the first dog I ever had. And honestly, Boots helped me through some early childhood trauma.
Yeah.
And we did grow up on the shores of Lake Erie. A lot of you recently of the lake effects knows. Well, that's what we had as a kid. So Boots and I would go out and exploring the snow belt and the high snow mounds as a kid.
Yeah, so here's a guy. You like dogs. I think you actually probably ate your vegetables too, didn't you?
That's not very likely.
The reason I say it because you went on to Ohio State to major in animal nutrition, right? Or
Yes, yeah. And then I went on to do graduate work at the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine.
Very
studying
nice.
nutrition.
Why? What's the thing?
Well, it actually happened when I was first started in sled dogs in northern Minnesota. I was a young college kid and I was rescuing sled dogs that had issues that people didn't want them anymore. So I put together this team of misfit and actually started to compete and started to beat some of the people that gave them to me. And one day, one of the dogs couldn't get out of her house. Her back end seemed to be like it was paralyzed. And that, of course, freaked me out. I rushed her to the vet. After extensive testing, they decided she was selenium deficient.
Oh, yeah, in your book. So what does that mean? Say it again.
Well, selenium is a mineral that we all need in our bodies, right? It's an essential nutrient, right? But, with a lot of nutrients, either too much or too little can cause problems. And so they determined that this dog was selenium deficient, meaning she wasn't getting enough selenium in her diet.
So what kind of food would that help her with?
It was at that time, it was a dry food. I changed to a different brand, figuring that there could be different levels. And
Right.
of course, she got better and the whole team got better. And that really was my aha moment. And I decided, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. I want to study nutrition and work with dogs. And that really changed. And so
What was that dog's name? Heidi.
And the funny thing is, after 40 years of studying nutrition, I can tell you it was a misdiagnosis. Heidi wasn't selenium deficient whatsoever. In fact, there's nobody I know in the nutrition world that's ever seen a dog that was selenium deficient.
So what do you think it was with Heidi?
It was I'm pretty convinced it was rhabdomyolysis, which is when dogs work hard, your muscles start to break down and your muscles start to leak fluid. You see it in horses as well.
Right.
I'm convinced that's what the condition was, but it started me down this path.
I like it. I have so many questions to ask you, Rob. I think I'm going to dive into dog sledding because a boy from Ohio spends a lot of winters in Alaska. And I think you did over 300 sled dog races.
Yeah. And actually in my entire career, I've been on the back of a dog sled over 6,000 times.
Oh my gosh.
covered over 42,000 miles, which is basically twice the circumference of the planet.
Wow. I got to say, bow wow. Why dog sledding? What is the attraction?
I guess I've always just liked watching dogs do what they were bred for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you take a bird dog, they like to hunt.
Right.
A herding dog likes to herd. Well, a husky likes to run, right?
Yeah. I
And
had one. Yeah, I know.
So it's just sort of letting them do what they like to do. I was born and raised in the outdoors. I really love being outside. And so it was just a perfect fit.
Well, your wife, Mary Jo, she also has dog sled.
Well, she didn't. I mean, we met at Penn at the vet
Yeah.
school. She was raised in Philly, right? She didn't even know what a
In
sled
West
dog
Philadelphia, born and raised, was Mary Jo.
was. Exactly. She didn't even know what it was. So became very good at it. In fact, a lot of my friends like to say she's probably the better racer of the two of us. They like giving me a hard time. So she's won like a bronze medal in World Cup racing, and
That's
so
impressive.
pretty accomplished, as are our children.
Yes. And you have some grandchildren now that are getting active with dogs, right?
Yeah, they're a little young yet, but they're having fun with it.
What's your biggest win, would you say?
Probably the North American Championship in Fairbanks, Alaska. The North American is sort of the granddaddy of them all. It was before the Iditarod, before all those kind of races.
So it
And
was
that
like
was
the
always
Super
my
Bowl
goal.
for dog sledding.
Yeah.
And how
That
many
was-
days was that?
That was so. Everybody knows that Iditarod is a distance race, and so they're covering 1,000 miles. So their average speed is only 5 to 7 miles an hour. We're doing what's called sprint mushing, so our average speed is over 20 miles an hour. So it's
Wow.
like faster than a human can run, and so we might race between, depending on how many dogs you're hooking up, between 8 and 16 miles per day, and we'll do it for the North American was a 3-day championship.
Do they have at each end of the leg of each day? Is there certain, do you keep your time? So if you had a really good run day one, that you keep going?
Yeah, absolutely. So you leave a starting chute and then they start the clock. And when you get back to the finish line, they stop the clock, right? And that's one advantage of that over saying showing dogs, where it's really up to the judge, right?
Right.
This is a stopwatch. So, it is what it is.
Well, I have to ask you, do you like moose? How about female mooses? Because in your story, you're lucky to be here on this show, because tell everybody, we've got a couple minutes before the break. What happened when you encountered a cow moose with their calf?
Well, anybody, like park rangers will tell you out west, the single most dangerous animal you're going to see in the forest isn't a grizzly bear, it isn't a timber wolf, it's a cow moose with a calf. And that is always a concern in Alaska. You're out on a dog trail and you run into a cow moose with their calf because they're very protective, right?
Oh, yeah. So
And
you were racing and
I was out and we had turned off the main trail and the dogs backed off like they saw something, but I didn't see what it was. I thought it was a rabbit or a squirrel. Because you need to understand, when I'm on the sled, my lead dogs could be 50 to 70 feet in front of me. So I don't necessarily see what they're seeing. So it was obvious now in retrospect, this cow moose and calf crossed in front of the dog team. I didn't see it. I turned off and went to go around this big loop. And now we started to come back. That moose kept going. Now we run into it head first. So I don't blame the moose. The moose saw us go by her once, and now she sees us turning around and coming at him. So I slammed on the brakes, started waving my arms, screaming, hoping she would run off because I was afraid, because I've had a lot of friends that dogs stomped and killed, and she did something what I didn't expect. She ignored the dog team and came charging at me.
you got nailed really hard and you were in the snow deep. Tell us about
Now,
that.
she left me for dead. I tried to
Stomped you, didn't she?
Yeah. My concern was the dogs. So I let go of the dog team, told them to go home. which was a bad mistake on my part. I stupidly thought I could get to a birch tree behind me, climb the birch tree, and once the moose calmed down, I could walk those miles back to the cabin. But it was a dumb idea. She chased me down, rammed me. I fell back in the snow, and the last thing I remembered was her hooves raining down on me. And she knocked me unconscious and left me for dead.
And you were unconscious, you think, about a half hour?
Yeah, at 20 below.
And your dogs were there?
Well, the dogs took off.
Okay.
And they made it about 300 yards. And when they turned back on the main trail, the sled tipped over. And we have in there what's called a boat anchor, or a snow hook, which is like a boat anchor. That fell out, caught in the snow, and held the dog team. So after 30 minutes, when I came to, I'm hypothermic. You go back from that because your body temperature goes low. So I was really, my mind, I wasn't very clear. I tried to move. She had broken my ribs, tore the cartilage in my sternum, fractured my elbow. In fact, I still have a steel rod and wire. And then my right hand was swollen like a boxer's glove. And the surgeon figured I was trying to block her blows.
Oh, maybe you were.
Well, wildlife biologists tell you if you're ever attacked by a wild animal just to play dead. Trust me, they've never been attacked.
Oh my gosh.
It's humanly impossible not to defend yourself, right?
Exactly.
So when I came to, I realized that this is it. I'm going to die here because there's no way I can walk all those miles back with those injuries. I couldn't breathe. I had no use of one arm. But I was thinking the dogs are going to go back to the cabin, which is miles away. But my family's still in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. So nobody's going to know I'm missing for a day or two. My wife and I try and talk on the phone daily. But with the time change, it doesn't always work. So I realize I'm going to die here. And when you realize that and you survive, it really changes how you look at things, right?
Yeah.
So my goal...
I'm glad you survived because I'm glad you're a guest on our show. Hey, everybody, we're speaking with Rob Downey. He's amazing. He is an animal nutritionist. He will talk about a company he started with his wife, Mary Jo, but getting into the dog sledding world. And you've got to get your paws on his new book. It's called Until the Last Dog, and it is one man's lifelong journey to Alaska with his dogs. So everybody, you know the drill. We got to take a quick break. You got to sit, stay. We'll be right back.
Hey, have you heard? Four-Legged Life has a new digital newsletter. Here, let me show you how you get yourself subscribed. So you just type in Four-Legged Life, and that'll take you to the website. There we go. And this magic thing just appears, and you type in your email address. I'll use, let's see, how about coolestdogever@gmail.com. That's me. And then you just click on this thing here. There you go. It's the new digital newsletter from Four-Legged Life. Get subscribed today.
Welcome back to the Four-Legged Life Show. I'm your host, Arden Moore. Our special guest is Rob Downing, and I have a lot of respect for this man. He knows how to operate a sled of dogs in the tundra called Alaska, and he's done it many times. He's written a book about his life, and I mean, what is the biggest kick you get when you're with a team of dogs in Alaska? I'm not even talking competition. I'm just talking you and the dogs and the snow. What's going on?
Honestly, the competition isn't as important to me as just being with the dogs and the bond I have, right?
Yeah.
And watching how they just love doing it. And then, honestly, the adrenaline rush of whipping through the trees at 20 plus miles an hour with maybe 16 dogs in front of you on a sled that might only weigh 16 pounds, and the only control you have over them is by voice, right?
So how do you give me a couple of voice commands to a team of 16 overly excited huskies?
Turn right, the command is G, and turn left, the command is haw. And supposedly those are old horse driving commands, which I don't know how it got in the sled dog vernacular. That's what it is. So, you really have to trust your lead dogs, right?
Yeah. How do you decide who makes a good lead dog?
I think the best lead dogs are born.
Mm-hmm.
They're not made. And I think you try everybody in lead, but the good ones.
What is a trait in a good lead dog?
confidence. They have to be confident, and they have to trust you, and they have to listen. Now, having said that, one of the best lead dogs we ever had was the shyest dog we had. Her name was Pitch, and it was like she put a cape on. Once you put her in lead, she was confident and was really good. But away from that, she was pretty shy of everybody but Mary Jo and I.
So you and Mary Jo, your wife, you've learned a lot about nutrition and you want to share that. So tell us about your pet food company. It's Animaet. It's Anamaet, which is, who is that?
It's named after my mom. Her name was Anna Mae. And so I got my love of animals, no doubt, from her. So we named the company. And so I'd done a lot of research, and that's what my major was, in nutrition. And when I graduated, I consulted for a couple of different pet food companies, and I got fed up because you'd make these recommendations based on a sound nutritional principle. And oftentimes they really didn't want to hear what you had to say. If it didn't improve the bottom line, they wanted to hear their words out of your mouth, right? So everybody kept saying, start your own company. And so
well,
that's
you did. 1986, I believe.
Yeah. So we're pushing 40 years, and now you can buy Animaet products in 18 different countries. And
nice. Well, I also like you've got formulas for dogs and cats, and you're really focused on their health. You've got some things to help with like urinary tract issues and things with joints and gut health, right?
Yeah. Well, part of it is I'm a companion animal nutritionist. We also have on staff a board-certified veterinary nutritionist.
Oh, I know Dr. Joe. You want to say his name?
Yeah, Dr. Joseph Wachslag. He's actually one of my best friends. And, I drove to Alaska 20 times, which is a 4,200-mile drive. He's the only person ever to go with me twice.
Wow. And he's from Cornell.
Yeah. So we're best of friends. We've been close ever for a long time. So it really works great because him being still involved in academia, when we put together formulas, I'll do the first formula, send it to Dr. Joe, and he'll come back and say, maybe we ought to try this. And so it's a great checks and balance system for providing cutting edge new formulas.
Well, we've just got a few minutes left, and I want to wrap up because your wife also had an encounter with a moose, but hers went better.
Yeah, my wife did. The moose charged.
The moose is on the loose.
The moose charged her. She was on the back sled. We were two sleds, and we were going around a curve, and I hollered for the dogs to go fast, trying to get by the moose. And the moose charged up to her. Ears were down, hackles were up, smacking its lips just like with me. Mary Jo said it. She just shut her eyes, waiting for the impact, and the moose stopped.
Think it's a chick-to-chick thing?
Yeah, right. Stop and let her go, right? So, yeah.
Yeah.
Even my daughter, you'll read in the book, I had a couple of run-ins with a moose when she was running in the junior races, and so both of our kids have done it as well.
Oh, my gosh. So what's your message to people about, let's get a good pet food tip and then a bonding with your dog or cat tip you'd like to share?
Sure. Well, as far as a nutrition tip, check the company you're doing business with. Don't be afraid to ask them questions, because every ingredient you see on that side panel of dog food, I don't care if it's raw, cans, or whatever, comes in at least 4 different quality levels. So that's why you'll see 2 products on the shelf, and they could read identical and they'll be totally different in price. So reach out to the pet food company and ask questions, right? And, that's the problem, is too many companies are now being purchased and they're no longer family owned. And you need to make sure that they're doing testing on their products. Are they doing feeding trials? All that kind of stuff is important, right?
And how about with a good bonding tip with your pets for you that you would like to pass on?
Well, I think you just need to spend time with them, and dogs and cats will learn to read you, right? Mm-hmm. And that's really the bond that you need. And dogs can tell if you're excited. They can tell if you're down. And I've always used my dogs to read how they feel about other people. If somebody comes in...
Oh, I do too. Even when I was dating before I got married. Oh, yeah.
Well, there's actually a part in the book that says that my dogs actually selected Mary Jo. So
I bet. Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing is, I'm laughing because all these years and honors and being in the tundra called Alaska, can you tell everybody what new dog sport you are enjoying now?
yeah, I'm actually doing dock diving.
I'm making a splash.
Yeah, right. Well, somebody asked me, what's the difference between training a sled dog and training a dock diving dog? And I said about 80 degrees.
Now, Kai is the dock diving champion. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
that means
so
ocean.
He's an Australian cattle dog. And we got into Australian cattle dogs in Alaska. They actually used to use them to keep the moose off the dog trail. And we got one then, and we've had them now for 30 years. And in fact, we have rescue ones now, except for Kai. And when Kai was a little puppy, he started jumping in our pool. And we never had a cattle dog that was addicted to water like he is. And he got an amazing cattle dog drive. So as he grew up, I just started throwing the bumper. He started jumping farther and farther. And now we're competing in dock diving events.
That's awesome. How do people find out about the pet food company?
We have a website on animate.com. And now you can even order the book. You can order the book through our website as well.
And please tell us the title.
Until the Last Dog.
All
and
right.
There's a great story in how that name came about. So it's
all right.
People say it's something they're having a hard time putting it down, and we've already got over 100 5-star reviews, so it's pretty good for a brand new book.
I think it's great. I had enjoyed it.
Thanks so much for making our tails wag by watching this guest interview from Arden Moore's Four-Legged Life. Four-Legged Life. Make sure to subscribe so you're up to date with all of our Four-Legged Life content. Four-Legged Life. Four-Legged Life.